Fired up. Let's do your thing here, bud. Nobody's any better at this than you are.
That's fine. Take a deep breath.
Give them hell at the end. Good luck to you.
Fighting like hell like we do every week. You are the best here.
Brett, be affirmative. You told me to get on. Info.
Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green.
Lock it down, lock it down.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times on the 14th. What the f*** is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Hell yeah!
11 got it.
Rowdy there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day.
Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys.
And welcome back to another edition of Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark, and we are headed to Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Roval portion of that track. Going to be quite exciting. The final race of the round of 12 cutoff race. Unfortunately, Alex Bowman is out today, still dealing with with concussion symptoms. Hope he gets better soon. Noah Gregson will take over that ride for him this week. So he is out. So we have 11 drivers vying for those final 8 spots. Chase Elliott locked himself in last week at Talladega. Let's take a quick look back at Talladega. As we see, just getting past Ryan Blaney, who, had a terrific race going and still is winless this year, but in a really good spot to make the round of 8 also. And Michael McDowell, who always races the plate races really well, or the super speedways really well. And Ross Chastain back there just almost getting in. But let's take a look at how the optimal lineups ended up working out. And it was kind of unusual. I even talked about it a little bit during the race preview last week of we were due for a race without a big one. And, we had a mini big one. I wouldn't even say that. It was only like 4 or 5 cars. Looked like it might have been worse, but a lot of the cars were able to continue on and still end up having okay finishing positions. So that definitely kind of, it didn't really change the lineup other than Ross Chastain being the only driver to start with inside the top 10. And that's a little bit not typical for a super speedway style race. But Ross Chastain starting 6th, finishing 4th, and getting some laps led in there and some fast laps. No real dominator as expected, but you did have Ryan Blaney leading 31 laps and Ross Chastain leading 36. But as you see, the fast laps are the better points, and you can see between that and the other drivers not in the optimal lineup how they were just spread all across the board. But either way, $3,600 still left, and it kind of fell the way I thought it was going to fall. I just didn't have quite the right drivers in my lineups. I didn't expect Landon Castle to have quite as good of a day as he did. But either way, good race. I'm surprised that it was as clean as it was. I don't know if it was the possibility of the safety of these cars that was kind of on the back of the mind, but they still raced fairly hard. They just didn't push quite as hard as I think they normally would have, or have had at super speedways earlier this year. So that may have been a little bit. Today's going to be a little bit different though. Speeds are definitely a lot slower. 17 different corners at this road course at Charlotte. But before we get there, let's look at the optimal lineup challenge. After 31 races, Eric Jones still sits up top with 11. Ross Chastain and Chase Elliott gaining a few points in the last race to kind of really separate those top 3. Christopher Bell and William Byron also rounding out the top 5 with 8 races in the optimal lineup. But either way, let's head to Charlotte. Oh, I forgot the Wheel of Doom that we spun to randomly put drivers in. Yeah, Daniel Hemrick did not have the day we needed. Cody Ware did not either. And Justin Allgaier ended up 2 laps down, so those three kind of definitely put a damper on it. Bubba Wallace did not have a day we were looking for, so only 104 points from the Wheel of Doom lineup. My other lineups actually did much better, but it's so random at these super speedways. So either way, it was lots of fun, and I'll be doing that at the super speedways all of next year. So we'll see how that goes. But either way, we head to Charlotte in the Roval, where last year Kyle Larson won. Will he repeat? Or will somebody else, one of the other road course experts who have won this year, do well? But the Bank of America Roval 400 from Charlotte Motor Speedway. This is a road course type of track. It is a 2.28 miles with 17 turns. Ton of turns. So Dominator points will kind of be the same as a super speedway. They won't matter quite as much. 76.3 of those are up for grabs, and only 27.25 coming from laps led and 49.05 fast laps. So yeah, if you get somebody, I mean, Joey Logano starting from the pole, if he goes out and leads the first stage, and then part of the second stage and some of the third stage, sure, I mean, it'll help. But somebody coming from, Brad Keselowski, who's starting 31st, if he can make it up to 5th, that's, how many points is that? 24 points? So, I mean, that's almost as many points as leading all the laps. So, place differential is going to be huge. And, of course, finishing position will actually be what we're really searching for. So, Dominator points will help kind of separate some people, but it's not going to be something that we really need to pay a whole lot of attention to. Track comparisons, Sonoma, Coda, Watkins Glen, Road America, and the Indy Road Course didn't fit on here. But those are the other 5 road course tracks that they have been to this year, so of course that's what we will be looking at. And the most important reason why you came is our driver-by-driver breakdown. Hey, make sure if you're in here, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you hit me up in the chat. Who do you think ends up winning today? Will it be one of the road course experts, or will it be somebody new? I think this is a fairly technical track and pretty high tire wear, so I expect probably one of these road course guys is going to get it done today. And we start off with Chase Elliott being the most expensive person in Draftkings this week at $11,000. As I do every week, we'll really dissect this box here, and then we'll do a summary of each of the drivers past this. So, as you see, Chase Elliott, $11,000. He is starting 9th, and then in gray here are his practice laps. So he was 16th in single lap speed. He did a total of 11 laps of practice. He was 22nd in 5-lap consecutive average. So to do this, you have to go out, run 5 laps consecutively without making a pit stop, which gets you into this 5-lap consecutive. And I think it was 27 of the 39 drivers did do 5-lap consecutive averages. So most of the field, we did have 2 drivers make it to a 10-lap, and I'm not going to discuss them because it just the speeds fall off so much, and you're only comparing 2 people. So 22nd on 5-lap consecutive average, which is a little bit off in my opinion for Chase Elliott, who has won at this race and, in my opinion, one of the better road course racers in NASCAR. So then on our next line here, we are comparing the 5 road courses from this year. Typically, I do what they have done at this particular racetrack, but because of the next gen car, and because we only go to 6 road courses in a year, I didn't want to look back at just all of the starts from the Roval, because this next gen car does make a much bigger difference. It's much more of a road course style car than the Gen 6 car that was last year's car. So we look at Watkins Glen, Road America, Coda, Sonoma, and Indy, all from this year. With that being said, Chase Elliott, out of those 5 races, has 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s. He is best in class at a 45.6 Draftkings average, and he has a best 6.8 average finish. Now, this does go to last year's race, where Chase Elliott finished 12th here at the Charlotte Roval in 2021. And this is his total road course stats. So all the road courses that he's ever run in the Cup Series. He has raced 24 times on road courses. He has, 7 wins, 14 top 5s, 17 top 10s, and 21 out of 24 top 20s. So as you can see, 7 wins. That is top of the field. Also, even better than the Dinger, the road course ringer, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But, I mean, over half the time, Chase Elliott's finishing in the top 5 and starting 9th. I mean, Chase Elliott has definitely the potential to finish in the top 5 and potentially win this race and / lead laps and have fast laps. So, with that being said, out of putting all that in, looking at the last 10 road courses that they've been to, all those things punched in with his starting spot, with how he practiced, my algorithm power ranking sheet has him number 1 highest, which should be the highest owned driver this weekend. I have 40 to 45%. I think Chase Elliott probably has a really good race. He's coming off of the win from last week, which always kind of gives you extra momentum going into the next week. But it is a road course, and we've got some really good road course racers in the field, and he's starting 9th, so he's got a little ground to make up. But either way, I think Chase Elliott is still probably going to be the favorite. I know Vegas considers him to be one of the favorites for this race. But somebody who would like to upset and take another win at a road course, and Tyler Reddick has 2 of those already this year, 2 wins at road courses. Let's see, Coda and the Indy road course, where he just absolutely dominated the field. If you can get somebody that dominates the field that much, then the Dominator points will help. But starting from the pole and finishing first pretty much locks you into making the optimal lineup. So 10,500, starting 4th for Tyler Reddick this week. He was 8th in single lap and 6th in 5-lap consecutive average. As we said before, he's got 2 wins at road courses this year, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, a 34.5 Draftkings average, and a 9.8 average finish. He finished 2nd in this race. Very important. He finished 2nd in this race last year here at the Roval. 14 total starts in road courses and 11 top 20s out of those, with 3 top 5s. So pretty consistent, pretty good road course racer. I expect Tyler Reddick to probably do very well. I think he and Chase Elliott, you can intermittently use them or use them both, but they are both very expensive. So, you have to be a little careful with pricing this week. But 4th on my ranking systems, I've got 30 to 35% of ownership. I didn't think I covered that, but the part here next to their rankings is what I have ownership in my lineups. And I do about 40 lineups. And so Tyler Reddick's in 35 to 40%, 30 to 35% of those lineups. Kyle Larson, next in line here, our winner here from the Roval last year. He also is the most recent road course winner at Watkins Glen this year. 10,300, starting 18th. He definitely missed qualifying a little bit. He was 7th in single lap. He did not get to a 5-lap consecutive average. So early on, his practice speeds were good. He just missed qualifying, which could be a huge benefit for us looking for somebody that's going to move up and give us place differential points, or PD upside, as we like to call it. But Kyle Larson, out of those 5 races, he's only got 1 win. I'm not sure why I have 2. I think I may have been mistaken, but he's only got the 1 win at Watkins Glen. But he has 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s, a 22.3 Draftkings average, and a 16.6 average finish. He's been up there and competitive at every road course, and I expect him to be competitive here also. With that being said, I have him about 35 to 40% of my lineups. I think out of all of them, he's going to have the best potential place differential upside for these expensive drivers. So I expect Kyle Larson to be also fairly heavily owned. Hey, if you're just joining in, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and hit me up in the chat. Who do you like today? A road course ringer, somebody else, or who's going to come from the back to give us a lot of place differential upside? Could it be Denny Hamlin, 10,100, starting 24th? Yeah, but that's consistent for Toyotas at road courses this year. So, I mean, 18th in single lap speed, 13th in 5-lap consecutive average. I mean, you can see from his stats at other road courses this year, he doesn't even have a top 10, only 4 top 20s. So starting 24th, I mean, if he can get himself into the mid-teens, is that going to be enough at 10,100? I don't think so. I think there's better people to take advantage of. But I still have him in 25 to 30% of my lineups. He's going to be fairly fast here. The Toyotas really concern me on road courses, and I'll probably say that for each of the Toyotas as we get to them. The only one that might have a better day, which has had better days at road courses, would be Christopher Bell, and Christopher Bell has to win today to advance. So there's going to be that online for Christopher Bell. Stage points won't matter for him. The only way for Christopher Bell to make it to the next round is to win this race. Denny Hamlin needs stage points, so I expect him to potentially stay out and grab some of those stage points to lock himself into the round of 8. But either way, he finished 5th in this race last year, but like I said, this car's completely different, and the Toyotas are not as fast on road courses this year. So, does Denny Hamlin know how to drive a road course? Absolutely. He's got 1 win out of his 44 starts. He's got 32 top 20s. Can he get up and buy for a top 10 or top 5? I just don't know. So it's a little iffy with Denny today. William Byron, 9,900. And just on the opposite side, he's starting second. Well, you're starting second, and you don't have a top 5 on a road course ever. And you only have 1 top 10 on a road course this year. 27.1 Draftkings average and an 18th place average finish. He only finished 11th in this race last year. He was 3rd in single lap speeds, 1st in 5-lap consecutive average. Okay. I just don't like his starting spot. And the history on road courses hasn't shown me anything from William Byron yet. So I'm only at 5 to 10% ownership. He came in 24th on my ranking system. So that one's a tough one, to say the least. Ryan Blaney, 9,700. Actually a pretty decent road course racer, and you don't really think of him as being one. He does have a 1 win on a road course, not this year. This year he's only got 2 top 10s and 3 top 20s out of the 5 road course starts. A 28.7 Draftkings average and a 14.6 average finish. He finished 9th in this race last year. 24 total starts on road courses with 1 win, 19 top 20s. Starting 19th, there's a decent amount of PD upside here for potential for Ryan Blaney. So I do like him because of that. I think he can easily go by for a top 10 or possibly even be there for a top 5. I'm not sure he's going to potentially compete with the Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, Larson, AJs of the world, but I think he can easily be somebody that can get a solid top 10 and maybe even get to a top 5. So I do have 15 to 20% ownership of Ryan Blaney. I think he's in a good spot. He's the highest in points currently, so he may race for a little bit of stage points early, and then just try to get himself a good finish. Next in line here, we've got Joey Logano, 9,600. Starting from the pole, Joey's actually pretty quick at road courses. He's 4th in single lap, 4th in 5-lap consecutive average. He finished 7th in this race last year. The problem is Joey gets a little aggressive on road courses. He gets a little aggressive everywhere. With some of these corners, getting over aggressive can really hurt you. And tire wear is going to be a factor today. I just don't love the starting position for Joey here on the pole. If he were just a little bit further back, I may have had a little bit more ownership. I didn't completely fade Joey out. I'm at 10 to 15% ownership, which is probably what the field's going to be at. So I'm probably even on him. Like I say, he's not a bad road course racer. I don't love the starting spot, especially when you've got people that we just talked about who are better road course racers than Joey. All right, next in line here. Hey, here's one. AJ Allmendinger, the road course ringer. Rang his bell yesterday for the 4th consecutive Xfinity win at Charlotte Roval. Nobody in Xfinity has ever won a race there other than AJ. But AJ's luck in the Cup Series has at the Roval has not been kind to him. Can he make that change today? I think so. This car is a much different car. It's much more of a road course style car, which fits AJ's driving style. He finished second at Watkins Glen just a few weeks ago. So 9,400, starting 7th. He was first in single lap speed. He did not do a 5-lap consecutive average. Hey, how do you like that? I only go out and do 4 laps of practice. I'm the fastest, so I'm just going to shut it down. And then I'm going to qualify 7th. And going to save my tires and just beat you on the track. So good for AJ. He does not have a win in this car this year. He does have 2 wins in the Cup Series out of his 31 total road course starts with 23 top 20s. As you can see, he finished 38th in this race last year, which I think was either last or next to last. But don't let that scare you too much. AJ is class of the field. He is as good as Chase Elliott and William Byron, or not William Byron, but Larson and Reddick. You know, that he's one of the top 5, if not top 7, road course racers. So 9th on my ranking systems. I got 25% ownership. I think he also is going to be racing full time next year in the Cup Series, so I think he's going to go out and try to make some noise today. Christopher Bell, as we just talked about a few minutes ago, 9,300, starting 8th. He has to win today to advance on to the round of 8. He does have a win out of his 14 total road course starts, but this year he has been the best of all the Toyotas, but even that's not great. He's only got 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, and 4 top 20s. He's got a 37.3 Draftkings average and a 13.6 average finish. Finished 8th in this race last year here at the Roval. My only question is, does he try too hard to do it? And if you overdrive these cars at the Roval, it will come back to burn you. So I'm fading off of Christopher Bell, number 1, because of the Toyotas, and number 2, I think he's potentially going to overdrive the car. So with that being said, I've only got 5 to 10% ownership on him. And starting 8th, I don't have the best feeling for Christopher Bell today. You know, love to see him advance, but not sure that might be in his cards today. Ross Chastain, $9,000, winner at COTA from earlier this year, and has run fairly well at most of the road courses. With that 1 win, he's got 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 3 top 20s at the other road courses from this year. 12th place average finish, a 37.9 DraftKings average. Starting 10th. But, as you see the asterisk, he did wreck on his second qualifying lap and will have to drop to the rear for those repairs. So he will keep that starting spot of 10th, but he will be starting probably 35th. But because of the way these stage breaks happen, he can easily get himself back up front. And like I said, dominator points are not as important today. And I expect Ross to be fairly quick and be just as patient and just works his way to the front, wait for those stage breaks. Run your pit cycles accordingly. Ross Chastain could easily still be a top 10 car. I'd already made up my lineups. I'm not going to change. I'm sticking with that 10 to 15% of my lineups. I think he's good enough to get back up there. Like I said, I mean, he won at COTA earlier, and he's got 3 top 10s at the other 5 road courses. So I expect Ross Chastain to still be somebody that can get us some decent points today. All right, next in line here, Martin Truex Jr., 8,800, coming out of that Toyota camp. And as you can see here, I mean, Martin Truex Jr. has 4 road course wins, 14 top 5s out of 42 total starts. 29 out of the 42, he's finished in the top 20, starting 19th. But his practice speeds were 19th for single lap, 12th for 5 lap. But I mean, his stats this year, he's got an 18th place average finish at road courses. He's only got one top 10 and only two top 20s out of 5 starts. I've got a little bit of ownership because there is some PD upside potential if he does have a decent day, or there is some attrition and he's not involved. I've got a little bit in 15 to 20% ownership, but I'm not expecting great things out of Toyota still until they figure out their road course package, which at this point will be 2023. And it sounds like we are probably going to end up having a fairly different car next year. So all of our stats that we have again from this year might potentially just get thrown out the window again. It really looks like they're just dealing with a lot of under the back end work. So I don't know how much that will change the actual performance of this car. All right, next in line here, Austin Cindric. Really good road course racer. And as you can see, he's got 2 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and 5 top 20s. All 5 races he's finished in the top 20. Well, we're going to need that because you're starting 5th. He was 2nd in single lap speeds and 2nd in 5 lap consecutive average. That engine change is not correct. He is not going to the rear. He did not have to change an engine. That must have been from previous. Here, let me change that so I have it for my records. Because I go back and rewatch these later. I don't want to confuse myself. Where'd he go? That is not correct. All right, back to this. Sorry about that. I just didn't want to screw it up for later. All right, so Austin Cindric. He did not race in this race last year, so we don't have any stats from that. But he got 8 total Cup starts, and 6 of those he's finished in the top 20. 5 of those he's finished in the top 10, and 2 times in the top 5. Austin Cindric's a great road course racer. Starting 5th, I think he's somebody that can easily be close to that type of finishing spot. So I do have 25 to 30% ownership of Austin Cindric today. I think he could be somebody to be reckoned with. And he's going to need to finish well if he wants to move on to the round of 8. Just like Daniel Suarez, who's next in line here at 8,500, starting 3rd. 5th in single lap, 3rd in 5 lap consecutive average. Daniel Suarez won the race at Sonoma earlier this year and really good. He pretty much dominated that race, especially stage 3. And if we look at his stats for the other road course, 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 3 top 20s, 12.6 average finish. He finished 13th in this race last year here at the Roval. I don't love Daniel's starting spot. It scares me a little bit, but I think Daniel Suarez, if he can get himself up front and get out front, I think Daniel Suarez is somebody that can easily be somebody that could vie for a win here. I think he's one of the top 10 best drivers at this point going into the road course. So why wouldn't we hold on to him? Like I said, the only part that scares me is where he's starting from. It's really no upside to his PD play. So we're really banking that he's going to finish where he starts. So, I've got some ownership on him. Chase Briscoe next in line here at 8,300, starting 17th. He was 12th in single lap, did not do a 5-lap consecutive. Chase Briscoe's only got 2 top 20s out of the 5 road course starts. 21st place average finish. He finished 22nd in this race last year. He's never had a top 5 on a road course. Only 3 top 10s, starting 17th. That kind of scares me a little bit. Chase is not really known as a big road course racer. In the Xfinity Series, he did fairly well, but so far in the Cup Series, he's not done all that great. So I've only got 10 to 15% ownership. Kind of like Kyle Busch here. Who expected to see Kyle Busch all the way down to $8,100 at this point on DraftKings? All year, he's been one of the most expensive drivers, and now that he is just fallen off of the face of the NASCAR circuit, $8,100 for a Kyle Busch, and he's starting 20th. The problem is he's still driving a Toyota, and he's leaving Toyota. He's not in the chase anymore. It's either you go for a win or you pack it up. And his record at road courses recently is not great. He's got 1 top 5 this year. And last year, he did finish 4th in this race. Yeah. I just don't like Kyle Busch, mostly because he's driving the Toyota and the other circumstances that are around him. So if Kyle Busch finishes really well and does really well, it's going to burn me. But I have a suspicion that he's probably not going to be super heavily owned. He might be. Might surprise me. He's got 3 wins on road courses, so he knows how to drive them. But either way, I'm not real heavy on Kyle Busch now. Kevin Harvick, I am a little bit heavier on. 7,900. He's got a point to prove. With getting hit with that 100-point penalty from an unapproved part that they found at the R&D center this week. I think he's got a little bit of a point to prove. So I think he's going to end up probably finishing fairly well. He's starting 22nd. 4 of the 5 races this year, he's finished in the top 20. 2 of them, he's finished in the top 10. He's got a 14th place average finish, a 37.7 Draftkings average. Now, he didn't do very well at this Roval last year. But, I mean, out of 54 total road course starts, Kevin Harvick has finished in top 20 43 times. I expect him to, don't expect Kevin Harvick to vie for a win? Maybe not. Do I expect him to potentially vie for a top 10? Yeah, I think so. I think Kevin's probably easily capable of getting a top 10 this weekend. But that being said, I mean, that's a decent PD upside play, and the points that you get for finishing in the top 10 is pretty good. His single lap speed was pretty horrendous at 30th, but he did improve a little bit, getting to a 19th and 5-lap consecutive average. I've got him in 20-25% of my lineups. I think he could be somebody that gets a little bit overlooked, with Kyle Busch being at 8,100, and people may just go after the name. Christopher Buescher, 7,800, starting 17th. If we look at his stats at road courses this year, 1 top 5, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s. He's also the one at the Indy road course that literally caught fire. Came in, they put it out, he didn't get out of the car, and still came back and finished top 10 I think he finished top 10. He also finished in the top 5 at Sonoma. 9.6 average finish. He's one of the better road course racers finishing spots this year. 37.9 Draftkings average. He finished 3rd here at the Roval last year. Can Chris Buescher win this race? Absolutely. And this car is lined up really good for him. His starting spot, there's a really good PD upside play here. 3rd on my ranking systems. I've got him in 30-35% of my lineups. I think he's somebody that can really actually be I think he can make it the optimal lineup today. If not, he's a super play. He's gonna be, unless there's a wreck or he gets tied up in something. If he's finishing this race, he's gonna finish inside the top 10. Noah Gragson filling in for the injured Alex Bowman, 7,600, starting 29th. Noah finished 3rd in this race after starting. Noah finished 3rd in the race yesterday in the Xfinity Series after starting dead last on the field. We don't have any stats for him on road courses in the next gen car, but he knows how to get around here. He understands how to drive road courses. I mean, is he an AJ Allmendinger like? No. But starting 29th, can Noah get himself into the teens? Potentially. And you also have to remember, he is still racing for the 48 to make the owner's chase. So the owners have a chase and the drivers have a chase. And the 48 is still viable for the owners. And that's really what pays the money. The drivers, it's much more notoriety and, getting your name on the trophy. But it's really the owners get the big money, and then that money's funneled to the drivers. So there's a big deal here for Noah to finish well and for that 48 team to finish well, so they can potentially make the round of 8. Then if either Alex comes back or Noah continues to fill in for that car, and they win a race in the final 3 before heading to Miami, which Noah's really, really good at Miami, before they go to Phoenix, I mean. Noah's one of the best at Miami Homestead. So if they can get and keep the 48 car inside the top 10, or the top 8, that's a big deal. And so Noah knows what's on the line, and I'm sure there's a big bonus check for Noah to get that car in there. So I expect Noah to do what he needs to do to try to get some points today. So with that being said, I think starting 29th, there's a decent amount of PD upside. The only downside is he hasn't shown greatness in this car, but he's shown spots where he's pretty good. So it's a little bit of a wild card, but starting 29th, I like the play. 10 to 15% ownership here. Next in line here, Eric Jones, 7,400, 17th in single lap. Did not do a 5-lap consecutive. He's starting 26th on the field. So kind of like Noah's got some decent PD upside play. His road course stats so far are not bad for this year, especially starting 26. He's got a 16.4 average finish, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s. I mean, in his total road course career, he's got 2 top 5s out of 22 total starts. I mean, for being somebody that's not known as a road course guy, Eric Jones is not a bad play. And starting 26, decent amount of PD upside play here. And I've got him in 25 to 30% of my lineups. I think he could be a sneaky play. Michael McDowell, 7,300, another road course. He's really good at road courses. I mean, he led quite a few laps at Watkins Glen, especially under the wet weather. We will not see wet weather today. It is absolute blue, sunny skies and cooler temperatures today. These cars are going to fly. But Michael McDowell is a really, really good road course racer. He's probably a better road course racer than he is a super speedway racer. Starting 11th, though, is a little tough. He was 9th in single lap, 9th in 5-lap. Got a 7.6 average finish on road courses this year. That's impressive. He's got all the races he's finished in the top 20. 4 of those 5 races he's finished in the top 10. I mean, I've got him in 15 to 20% of my lineups. He shows up as 8 on my ranking system. He finished 16th in the last year model car. Yeah, I don't mind Michael McDowell today. I mean, I've got him 15 to 20% of my lineups. The only part that always scares me, I guess at this point he is proven that he can finish top 10s because he's got a ton of them this year. Next in line here, Bubba Wallace, 7,200. This is another driver who is driving for the owner points for that 45, who are vying to try to make the final 8, just like Noah Gregson is doing with the 48. But if we look at Bubba's stats, they are not good. Starting 14th, he was 13th in single lap, 10th in 5-lap consecutive average, not bad. But if we look at his history so far this year on road courses, he's only got 1 top 5. And that equated to 1 top 10, 1 top 20. Okay. 29.8 average finish. That's abysmal. 5.4 Draftkings average. Abysmal. He finished 14th this race last year. In his total road course starts, he's only got 1 top 5. 4 top 20s. So not even 25% of the time does he even make it into the top 20. I'm faded off. That and he's driving a Toyota. So I have faded off Bubba Wallace. I think I've got him in 3 lineups. Just in case something really weird happens. But yeah, I've faded off of Bubba Wallace quite a bit. And I expect him to probably be fairly low owned. All right, Brad Keselowski, $7,000. Starting 31st. They did have an issue with their steering rack. So they replaced it, which makes him go to the rear. 31st to 36. Not that far of a drop. Not worried about that. He's got a decent PD upside play here. 26th in single lap, but I think there was the steering issue that caused him a little bit of problems. He finished 20th in this race last year. I mean, he's never won on a road course, but I'm not looking for Brad to win today. I'm looking for Brad to get me a top 10. If Brad can get me a top 10 starting 31st, I mean, that's at least 21 points. And as we can see, I mean, the DraftKings average are really low. I mean, you can get to 50 points on a road course, and if Brad gets to 10th, I mean, that's like 35 plus his 20 points of PD upside. I mean, that's already in 50 points. So, if Brad can get to a top 10, he's going to make the optimal lineup. But I also think Brad's going to be fairly heavily owned. I've got him in 35 to 40% of my lineups. Expect him to be heavily owned, but not one of those. If he makes the optimal lineup and you don't have him, you're not making the optimal lineup. All right, next in line here, Austin Dillon, 6,900, starting 15th. Yeah. What have you done for me at a road course, Austin? Not much. One top 5, 3 top 10, or 1 top 10, 3 top 20s. I mean, almost half the time he finishes in the top 20, but only one time in the top 10. 15th place average, or 15th place here last year. 19.8 average finish so far for this year. Yeah, nothing's showing me that I want any ownership, and as you see, 0 to 5%. Same thing here with Cole Custer, 6,700, starting 12th. At least, I mean, pretty close to the same stats. 26.1 Draftkings average, a 15.8 average finish, starting 12th. Pretty much tells me you're going to finish where you start. Finished 18th in this race last year. Starting 12th, it's just too far up. And Cole Custer, either him or his pit crew, always seem to get in their own way. So I'm faded off of Cole Custer. Austin Dillon and Cole Custer go out and have an amazing day today. My ship is sunk. And the same thing with Ty Gibbs. I mean, all these guys starting 12th, 15th, and 16th, I just don't have any interest in. 6,500. Starting 16th, I don't see Ty Gibbs battling for a top 10 or top 5. He was 15th in single lap, 16th on 5-lap consecutive average. He's only got one top 20 on road courses this year. I mean, he's only raced in 2, which was Watkins Glen and the Indy Road Course. A 21.5 average finish, and as of lately, he has just been not great. Which it's a different car, and he needs to be focused on his Xfinity Championship, just like Noah does. And that's part of the issue with Noah. But Noah's racing the 48 for owner's points. Ty Gibbs is not racing the 23 for owner's points. So, I mean, yeah, is Ty Gibbs going to absolutely go out and give 100%? Oh, yeah, without a doubt. But is that 100% going to be enough when he's been heavily focused on the Xfinity side? I don't think so. So I'm faded off of Ty Gibbs. Oh, Eric got you the wrong car there. It's supposed to be the 10 Haas car. But either way, Eric, I'm not going to fix that. Eric Almirola, 6,400. Oh, Eric had some troubles with his steering rack also. So I don't know if Toyota gave whatever cold they had in the steering racks to the Fords, but yeah, Brad Keselowski, Ford, having steering issues, going to the rear. Eric Almirola, steering issues, going to the rear, also in a Ford. And I think that was part of the problem with his practice speeds and everything else. Because, I mean, he's not great at road courses, but he's not 32nd or 37th. Now, he's going to have to go to the rear, which is probably going to put him where he's starting. Because there's a couple other guys that are further back that are going to have to start from the rear also. He may actually end up starting 36, if I'm reading everything right. But he finished 24th this race last year. He's got a 25.6 average finish. I think he's going to be super heavily owned because he's starting 37th. But his stats are not great. I might be a little over-owned on him where I shouldn't be. But starting 37th, there's just that potential. I mean, if he can get to a 17th, I mean, that's 20 points PD upside swing. And 17th gets you, I think about 15 or so odd points. I mean, all of a sudden, that's a 30 DraftKings point. It's almost one of those you almost can't afford not to take him. All right. But I can also see why you would fade off of him. His stats are not great. Justin Haley, 6,200. Starting 13th. Justin, yeah, I'll get your coverage again. He's consistent. 4 top 20s out of the 5 races. 17.6 average finish. And he's consistently kind of starting in that 13th spot. The problem is finishing where you start and it's in the teens doesn't do me much of any good in the way of optimal lineups or really getting into high cash frames. Finished 37th in this race last year, but it's the last year's car, and he was with a different team, so I don't put a whole lot of stock into that. I mean, I think Justin could easily finish where he starts. I don't think that's unreasonable, but I don't think that does me a whole lot of good. So I've faded off of Justin Haley. Paul, I missed your message here. Paul Moss, AJ, Larson, Byron, Ross, and Cindric. Oh, no Chase Elliott, no Reddick, huh? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, William Byron would be surprised. And Ross having to start from the rear, making it up to a top 5 would be a little bit of a surprise, but not completely out of the loop. But I think AJ definitely, he pretty much is Mr. Roval at this point, especially in the Xfinity Series, not so much the Cup Series, so he knows how to get around here. In the 2, Austin Cindric, yeah, that's definitely a good call. I mean, Larson won this race last year, so yeah, I don't love 2 of them, but I think the other 3 are in good shape. So yeah, not bad. I'm not sure you can fit those all in a DraftKings lineup, but I think you can in Fantasy Live on NASCAR.com. So if that's what you're going for, that's a pretty good lineup. I like it because then PD downside won't hurt you so much, especially with William Byron. All right, we talked about Justin Haley. He's pretty consistent. Don't have a whole lot of interest because I don't think it's going to do much for me if he finishes 15th and starts 13th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who is not great at road courses, never had a top 10, starting 25th, but if he can go out and finish 10th through 15th at $6,000, maybe a decent PD upside play. So, I mean, we did have to save some money to take some of the higher-end drivers, and this is kind of where that starts. Starting 25th, I'm taking probably a little bit of more of a shot than I should with Ricky, but I am taking that shot. He did have a spin during practice, which hurt his practice speeds a little bit. So it's much more of a risky play with Ricky, but starting 25th, there is some PD upside play. Joey Hand, who has run extremely well at every road course, and then just somewhere in the last third of the race as an issue. I mean, he was top 5 or top 10 at Watkins Glen, Coda, Road America. I don't think he was doing great at Sonoma. And then he, finished middle of the pack at Indy Road Course. I mean, for somebody who doesn't run this series every year, Joey Hand's not a bad play. And starting 27th, I mean, it's risky because he's got a 27.2 average finish. But the more he runs this next-gen car, the more he runs around these guys, the more they're going to trust him, the more he's going to learn. So, I expect Joey Hand to have a decent day today if he can just end up finishing the race. He could end up with a top 10. He is one of the better road course racers out of this bunch, but he's not the best road course racer in a cup car. So if he can put those 2 together, potentially could be somebody that could be reckoned with. Todd Gilliland had a great run at the Indy Road Course, finishing top 5, but at 5,700, starting 32nd. Ton of PD upside potential. He got a 21.4 average finish. 2 races this year, he's finished in the top 20, 21.4 average finish. Practice speeds were not great, but if we can have some attrition and Todd Gilliland's not involved and he stays on the lead lap, that's enough for me. So I'm about the same ownership with all 3 of these guys. And you've got to have some ownership of these lower price drivers to have the higher price drivers. All right, Harrison Burton, 5,600. Same as Todd Gilliland. He had a great race at the Indy Road Course. I mean, pretty much almost identical stats. The only problem is Harrison Burton starting 23rd, where Todd Gilliland is starting 32nd. I like the PD upside play better with Todd Gilliland than I do Harrison Burton. Hence, I am a little bit off on ownership. So those are kind of the stats for Harrison Burton. I don't love his starting spot. If he were starting further to the back, I could have some more ownership of him. Ty Dillon, also kind of in the same boat. Not best road course racer, starting 28th. There is some PD upside potential. 22.6 average finish. 3 top 20s out of the 5 road course starts this year. Nothing to write home about. Kind of like Corey LaJoie starting 30th. I've got more Corey LaJoie than I do Ty Dillon, but there's 2 more spots to gain. And he was a little bit faster in practice than Ty Dillon. But Corey LaJoie is not a road course racer. Nowhere near. But can he survive the attrition and finish up front? Connor Daly from the Indy Series is jumping over to try out his hand in the NASCAR Next Gen car. He is having to go to the rear, even though he's starting from the rear because he didn't qualify because he wrecked in practice. No fault of his own. Something happened with the power steering. Oh, is he driving a Ford or a Chevy? I don't even know what kind of car he's driving. That appears to be potentially a Chevy. Yeah, I think it is a Chevy. But yeah, the Fords were having the issues. I don't know. It's so hard to tell from the side view on what these drivers are driving. But either way, I wish Connor Daly the best of luck. Starting 39th, having to come from the rear, having to drive a repaired car. Go out and learn. But I mean, he's a heck of an Indy driver. So I just don't know what to make of him. He's starting dead last on the field. There's nowhere to go but up. And I think he's going to go out and get the experience. The question is, what kind of? I don't know. That, and you've got a pit crew you're going to have 25-second pit stops at best, where a Kyle Larson's going to have a 10-second pit stop. So Connor Daly, we're not even looking to possibly even get into the top 30, I don't think. And I don't think that's enough starting 39th. I don't think 9 positions, 9 points, plus the 10 that he gets, even at his price, I just don't think that's a good play. You got a Mike Rockenfeller who's got only 1 start in this next-gen car. He's got a 30th place average finish, starting 34th. I mean, these guys are really good road course racers. They just don't understand quite yet how to deal with the next-gen car. This Russian guy, I can't pronounce his name. I'm not going to butcher it. Starting 30-30, he's got a 36th place average finish out of his 2 starts. Yeah. I mean, he had a decent Xfinity run yesterday, but this car's completely different. JJ Yaley starting 35th. There's not a whole lot of interest here. This is his first road course start in this car, filling in for Cody Ware, who was injured last week or 2 weeks ago. Still mending up. Josh Williams, 4,600. I mean, this poor guy, they had to go through 3 inspections, so they lost their pit spot. They've got to drop to the rear. They lost their crew chief. They got to do a pass-through after the green flag falls. He'll probably be able to stay on the lead lap, but I don't know for how long. He had a rough day yesterday. Don't have a whole lot of interest in that. Heselman, this is his 4th start. He's got a 35.3 average finish. None of these guys have any interest in. I know they're learning, and in next year, or maybe the year after, the problem is they just need to run this car more. All right, our dominators, because I have to get back to my son's baseball tournament. Game starts in about 40 minutes, and I've got a 20-minute drive to get back, so we're going to start wrapping this up. Make sure you hit me up in the chat if you have any questions, thoughts, or concerns. Even after I leave, I'll be more than happy to try to chime in after the video is done. So, all right, dominators or must-own guys. I really like Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher, and Tyler Reddick today. Chris Buescher mostly because of his PD upside, along with Kyle Larson. But I think Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, and Tyler Reddick could all easily vie for a win, along with Chris Buescher. Brad Kay is going to be a huge PD upside play, but he's also going to be probably fairly heavily owned. Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex all scare me a little bit because they're driving Toyotas. Kevin Harvick's going to be on a mission because he's pissed because of his penalties. I really like Ross Chastain, even though he's got to drop to the rear. Michael McDowell could be somebody to really watch out for. AJ is Mr. Roval. Christopher Bell has to win to get into the next round. Austin Cindric just needs to have a good, solid top 5 finish day today. Same with Ryan. Well, Ryan Blaney could finish a little bit worse than that, but he's going to probably end up just trying to drive to survive to the round of 8. Daniel Suarez, kind of on that bubble too, so Daniel Suarez is going to drive to survive and get a win today. Same with Joey. I mean, starting with Bull, he's going to have to drive hard. So, and some long shot value guys. Todd Gillen did really well at the Indy Road course along with Harrison Burton. Don't love the Austin Dillon, Todd Dillon plays. Ricky Stenhouse, don't like that one either. So most of these value guys, most of my lineups were really wrapped up into these, 22 drivers that I'm really going after. Optimal lineups from previous road courses. As we can see, PD upside play is pretty big. Nobody inside the top 8 there. You did have Kyle Larson at Watkins Glen start from the pole, finish first. Yes, I mean, that's the other thing is, I mean, we're really looking at finishing positions with some PD upside play. So, I mean, first, second, third, fourth, sixth, and then a 13th. Two values. Yeah, so I mean, the same thing. We're looking at, at 4 PD upside plays, 4 PD upside plays at Watkins Glen, 5 PD upsides at the Indy Road Course, which was an absolute cluster of a mess. 3 PD upside plays here at Road America. Yeah, I mean, Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick were just dominant on the field all day long. Chris Buescher, pretty good run there for him. Daniel Suarez had a good run. Yeah, I mean, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 38th. Started 33rd, finished 19th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. here, 38th to 13th. That's what we're kind of looking for potentially for that Ricky Stenhouse play today. And Brad Kay, same thing. Has started further in the back and has worked his way to the front. He's just consistently getting himself in that top 10 spot. I mean, he's not vying for wins, he's not vying for top 5s, but he gets himself into a top 10 spot. So that's why I like Brad Kay today. I also think he's going to probably be heavily owned because most of these people are going to do their homework and they're going to see that. I mean, Austin Cindric here also, Daniel Suarez. So a lot of the same names and faces, guys that run really well at road courses. We're really looking for those PD upside plays. I mean, once again, we look at these starts, nobody in the top 10. Look at these starts, only one guy in the top 5, 2 guys in the top 10. So we're looking for 3 or 4 guys coming from the back, and 1 or 2 of those guys to finish well and start up front. All right, either way, I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, share with your friends, anybody else that you know. It is starting to warm up here in the Richmond area. I think it's going to be a beautiful day in Charlotte. I've got some baseball to go watch. I will be watching the chat to see if anybody chats in or has any questions. Feel free to ask. I'll be more than happy to answer. But once again, remember, it's free. And that's what you get from it. It's free. I just use the data that I have in front of me and my years of experience of watching these things and how they unfold, and have won some pretty decent money at it. So just sharing what I have. Take it or leave it. It's free. But either way, have a great Sunday afternoon. We finally get down to 8 drivers. We are down to the final 5 races of the year. That's crazy. But I appreciate everybody tuning in. Once again, hit that like and subscribe button. Have a great weekend. We will see you next week. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so got to be around at the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checker. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby!
Hell yeah!
Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day.
Great work, my man. Great work. Keep putting yourself in position. We'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
Great job, guys. Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal we got in here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the fastest car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.